All right, so before I go here, Anita had asked, just before we started, what would you buy if you had $170,000 to spend? That's a very broad question, so I'll answer it this way. I grew up in New York. I live now in North Carolina. I have a lot of familiarity with Florida. Now, I have a lot of familiarity with a lot of markets around the country, but me as a consumer, imagining I didn't do this for a living. I just did it, I'm just like Anita, okay? So forget all the things I know professionally. The first thing I would do is, as a New Yorker, there aren't that many places you could spend $170,000 and even buy a house. I'm very big into houses, all right? So for Anita, I would get out of New York. And the reason I mentioned, let's say I was still a New Yorker, I couldn't really get that much for 170. I could put it as a down payment, but because taxes are high in New York, the expenses keep going up, taxes keep going up. There are places like Florida and North Carolina. The reason why I didn't say Texas and Oklahoma is that I never grew up going there. I grew up going to Florida on vacation. My parents would take us there. And I moved to North Carolina. I went to college in Albany. Albany might have been an option, Albany, New York, because it is much cheaper. So my point is, for Anita, if she called in, I'd be asking her, where do you live? If she lived someplace expensive, I'd say, where else do you know, right? Where have you been? Where do you have family living? Where did you go to college? Where do you have a certain degree of familiarity? Because it might be that one of those markets that are secondary in your life are actually a better investment, and I would start looking there, okay? At 170, I would put half down. Again, I'm not a get-rich-quick guy, so I like putting down big down payments. I buy fewer houses because of that, but I never go underwater. I never go negative equity. I never go, even when a tenant leaves, my mortgage is tiny compared to the rent payment, and so I go a month negative because I don't have any rent, no big deal, I make it up the next month. And so 170, you can pay cash in North Carolina and Florida and get a house. You can buy two of them if you've got a 50% mortgage on them. And what you can see with that is that you're talking about a 5 to 7% yield, which means you're gonna get 5 to 7% of the money you sink in annual return, which is pretty good. Compare that to a savings account or an annuity or a CD, right? Safe investments don't go anywhere near that. They're like at the 1 and 2% range. You go to the stock market and you can get a little volatility there, Lord knows. And so single family homes, you look at this chart, it kind of illustrates that even when we have the biggest real estate bubble and correction in history, you still have a very mild upward trajectory in value, even during the stress test of the last 10 years, okay? But one little last point, if you're investing, buy in November and December, okay? The reason why the prices are lower is simply because there's less demand.